In the event of an emergency, your emergency exits can be found all around you. Just jump into the water. Thomas, the captain at the time, will let you know when to do that. But it's generally not a good idea to do that until you absolutely have to. Emergencies can include things like marauding sea lions, pirates, the boat actually leaking, or perhaps even a fire. Now, there's not much we can do about marauding sea lions or pirates. You generally have to do what they say. But for the fire and the leaking, we generally try to fix it before we jump overboard. For the fire, normally we would expect a fire to start in an electrical area or in the engine room. So let's go downstairs and have a look at the engine room. Now, this engine room is a fairly large engine room, and as you can see as I lower myself down here, this Volvo D4180 is a nice little bit of a beast which keeps us powered up when we need to. There's a bunch of other bits and pieces down here, fuel tanks, water tanks, etc, etc, and as you can see, a nice big fire extinguisher. Now, if we see smoke coming out of there, we want to try and stop it before we jump overboard. A smelly, sooty, smoke-stained boat is much more preferable than being in a life raft. So, we would try and fix the fire. Underneath here, we can see fuel stops, which we would turn off to make sure there's no fuel going anywhere. And the red one is the fire trigger for the fire extinguisher in the engine room. We would fire that first of all. We would then go and find other fire extinguishers. In mine and Thomas's cabin, we share a cabin together, although there is, as you can see, a little cloth between us. Should one of us decide to get a little amorous in the middle of the night through desperation, that keeps us under control. In here, another fire extinguisher, along with a crash helmet. I'm not entirely sure what that's doing in there, but let's close that and move on. Right. In the kitchen, the galley, as we say on nautical terms, we have a few bits and pieces, but we also have underneath here yet another fire extinguisher and a fire blanket for fires that actually happen in the kitchen. We want to make sure those are under control. At the back, on the other side of the boat, in this cabin, which is basically our workshop cabin where we store all our junk and tools and various bits and pieces, we have another access panel here. Now this brings us into the water maker and the generator system and the electrical system as well. All of that is in here. The fire extinguisher we saw on the other side runs through into this compartment as well. It's all one compartment basically, so we can fire that fire extinguisher. That will be managing this area as well, because there's a second machine and there's the potential for electrical fires. That is a CO2 extinguisher, so that's good to know. Now, one of the other things to think about if we've managed to sort the fire out is the boat actually leaking? Leaking isn't good. Archimedes told us all about how it works with the floating, so we need to keep the water out in order to float. Here is one access panel for a number of hoses that come into the boat or go out. This one is a toilet exit. These are other flushes for certain things, perhaps the shower. This one, I believe, is an input for the cooling system. And then there'll be an input for the water maker, there'll be an input for the engine coolant, that sort of thing. So there's a number of places where water is coming into the boat, and we need to be aware of that. We need to make sure that only the right amount of water is ever coming in the boat. If too much is coming in, the boat may eventually sink, so we have to stop the holes. We can do things like plug them with plugs of wood, or if it's a big hole, we might even consider wrapping a sail around the hull from the outside to try to reduce the amount of water coming in. We don't need to stop it completely, we just need to make sure that less water is coming in than the pumps can handle and kick out. And as long as we've got that balance right, we can survive. If all of this fails, eventually we might need to consider getting into a life raft. So, at the back of the boat, on the left and on the right, in 2 hatches, we have a large life raft. Maybe 25 kilos, little heavy, but when one is pushed in an emergency, easy to get this out and ready to deploy. Each one on each side takes 8 people, so me and the captain will be in this one, Thomas will be in the other one. Down on the side, Thomas has been naughty recently, down on the side you might be able to see a yellow bag. Now this bag includes all the bits and pieces we're going to need in the life raft: water, medicine, fishing lines, a few decent books, that sort of thing. We might be there a little while. There will be the locator beacons that I talked about for my personal safety. The boat has one itself, which we will grab on the way out. Life rafts generally have one secured about them somewhere, which we would trigger once we're all settled and everything's fine. In order to trigger this life raft, it is inflatable, we have to take this piece of rope. Now, before I throw the life raft into the water, tie this to the boat somewhere. It's a good idea, otherwise life raft just off on its own out into the wilds, no use to man nor beast. So this gets tied to the boat. Life raft gets thrown overboard. We then pull this. I'm pulling it very gently because if we do trigger the life raft here in this confined space, we'll probably break the boat. So once you get to the end of that rope and it's taut, pull it sharply, and that starts the inflation of the life raft. It takes a couple of minutes to inflate, eventually turns into a nice little cabin at sea, ready for us if we need to leave the boat. The general rule for life rafts is step up into a life raft. The boat basically needs to be just about ready to go below the water before we would decide to get in the life raft. If the boat is still floating, even if it's only half floating, it's a better place to be than in a life raft. You've still got access to all the tins of food, you've still got access to the water, people can see a boat more easily than a life raft generally, so you stay with it. Like you'd stay with a car in the outback of Australia. Don't wander away. Only when the thing has finally given up and is ready to go underwater do we step into the life rafts that are ready, and we cut the rope because we don't want to go with the boat to the bottom of the sea. And then we're stuck in a life raft. And let's talk about how we get people's attention and get them to come and pick us up at another time.